Managing buyer-supplier relationship has become a key success factor. It affects important competitive parameters such as the time to market for new products or even the continuity of supply. However, managing buyer-supplier relationship has become a key challenge. In the one hand, there is an increasing complexity as buying organizations face more risks, uncertainties, and vulnerabilities. And on the other hand, there is also an increasing intensity or frequency of interaction with other supply chain partners. For example, during joint innovation projects, buyers have to collaborate closely with their suppliers as these have become important partners in the joint development of both process and product innovations. As such, buying organizations have become increasingly susceptible to unexpected events, such as unexpected project delays, and these have been known to have severe consequences for buyer-supplier relationships. First, our study extends the psychological contract literature by examining purchasing managers' mitigation strategies in response to an unexpected negative event. As such, we advance understanding of the role of the buying organizational positioning toward the supplier in the wake of such an event. Second, we also take into consideration that buyer-supplier relationships do not only exist at an interorganizational level. Specifically, we take a multi-level view and also consider the role of interpersonal ties between the supplier's sales manager and the buyer's supply manager. Specifically, we investigate which role the interpersonal ties play when handling such unexpected negative events at the interorganizational level. And last, we also investigate subsequent trust repair. More specifically, we investigate which role relational governance mechanisms such as penance and regulation play when trying to successfully rebuild interorganizational trust following such an unexpected negative event. Basically, our goals were twofold. First, we wanted to investigate the role that unexpected negative events can have on buyer-supplier relationships. As such, we took into consideration the interorganizational relationships that exist between supply chain partners, so buyers and suppliers, and we wanted to investigate which role the nature of the interorganizational buyer-supplier relationship plays when experiencing such an unexpected negative event. In a second step, and also to cover the span of pre-breach through post-repair, we wanted to go one step further, not only investigating the relational consequences of such events, but also come up with particular strategy on how such events can be effectively managed. Specifically, we use social exchange theory, which is quite valuable in our research setting. And why is this the case? Social exchange theory posits that exchanges are either characterized by economic or social exchanges. Economic exchanges are purely transactional and only focus on providing transactional or compensational monetary benefits. Social exchanges, on the other hand, are typically provided voluntarily and on which there is usually no price that can be put on. Taking these two perspectives into consideration basically helped us to answer our research question. And why was this the case? Well, we consider both the role of collaborative and adversarial interorganizational relationships. So in collaborative interorganizational relationships, usually there is a strong need to provide both social and economic exchange benefits in order to keep the supplier motivated to innovate for and with the buyer. On the other hand, in adversarial interorganizational relationships, there is usually a strong focus on purely transactional benefits. These relationships are characterized by a rather limited time horizons, and suppliers, they are only focusing on the monetary benefits they gain from this exchange. The same also applies to the interpersonal perspective or the interpersonal ties that we also took into consideration, particularly when thinking about sentiments and friendships which develop between a supplier's sales manager and a buyer's supply managers. These also can be viewed from a social exchange perspective, in which a sort of mutual norm of exchange develops when talking about these friendships that may develop. We used a multi-stage scenario-based role-playing experiments with more than 600 supply and sales managers. Participants assumed the role of the sales managers that was involved in the joint development of a new HDD for and with the buyer. At the very beginning of the scenarios, the sales manager, or the participant in that case, was informed about being involved in either a collaborative or an adversarial interorganizational relationship. They also received information about having either collaborative or adversarial interpersonal ties. Next, participants were asked to assess their interorganizational trust level toward the buyer. Afterwards, they were exposed to the unexpected negative event, which was in that case an unexpected project delay, before they were asked a second time to assess or indicate their trust perceptions toward the buyer. Afterwards, they were exposed to the buying organization's effort to remedy the situation and were then a third time asked to assess their trust level toward the buyer. As such, we measured the trust level, so the supplier's trust level toward the buyer, 3 times, and used these 3 measurements of interorganizational trust to operationalize interorganizational trust loss and interorganizational trust repair. Our findings were threefold. First, we found that unexpected negative events indeed can have negative relational consequences. Specifically, we found that this effect was stronger when the initial nature of the buyer-supplier relationship had been initially collaborative in its nature. Second, and this is contrary to our previous finding, we found that collaborative interpersonal relationship can help mitigate the fallout from the unexpected negative event. So, investments in interpersonal ties can help to mitigate the negative effect from the unexpected negative event, particularly when the initial nature of the interorganizational relationship has also been collaborative in its nature. Last, we found that suppliers expect a financial compensation when rebuilding the initially damaged trust. So, while regulation wasn't rather successful in interorganizational trust repair, we found that providing a financial compensation was quite helpful in interorganizational trust repair. In that case, it was also interesting to see that initially adversarial relationships sometimes even recovered to a state or to a trust level which exceeded the initial interorganizational trust level. So what does this tell us? Well, successfully managing unexpected negative events can even help to build or even strengthen relational ties between buyers and suppliers when being able to successfully rebuild interorganizational trust, in that case by providing a substantial financial compensation.